Hi, everyone. Welcome to Enabling Diverse Application Use Cases with Spinnaker, a Cisco success story session at Spinnaker Live 2020. My name is Balaji Siva. I'm part of the OpsMX team, and with me I have Anil from Cisco, and we're excited that you're joining us today. OpsMX, for people who haven't familiar with, is Spinnaker, a commercial support and solution provider. And I've been part of the Spinnaker community for the last 4 years. It's been a great success. It's a great, I can see the success of how Spinnaker has evolved from the initial days to now. And I'm happy to have Anil from Cisco, who's part of the IT architect team. And he's going to talk about their use cases and their success story. Anil, why don't you say hi?
Hi, Balaji. My name is Anil, and I am the technical architect in Cisco Systems, working in the space of continuous delivery and DevOps.
All right. So before I give the floor to Anil, who is the main speaker for this session, I want to give folks a little bit of what we have on the agenda here. I will talk about the Spinnaker use cases and the emerging use cases. And then Anil will talk about how Cisco is using Spinnaker, and also essentially talk about get into detail about how they've extended Spinnaker to support Snowflake deployments. So Spinnaker has been, as I said before, has been widely adopted in the last 4 to 5 years. A lot of companies, I think hundreds of companies have adopted Spinnaker in their production deployments. Full list is available, or at least a large portion of the list is available at spinnaker.io. Under the community section, you can see the companies that are using Spinnaker in production. You can see everywhere, anybody from technology to retail to banking and telecom are using Spinnaker. And so it's definitely applicable to a lot of use cases. And one of the reasons why enterprises choose Spinnaker is the active community it has. There's 10,000 plus contributors and participants. And also the enterprises, end users, are not just participating and getting questions answered, they actually contribute back to the community. For example, just last year, Apple and Nike and Shibets have contributed a lot of code to the project. And Spinnaker is also supported by the original founders of Spinnaker, which is Netflix. They still contribute a lot to the project, along with Google. They have 2 big contributors, but also supported by other service providers or other cloud providers like Amazon and Microsoft, along with companies like OpsMX and Armory. So it's a pretty vibrant community, and it has gotten wide of adoption. So what are the primary use cases that enterprises look for Spinnaker? So one of the drivers for Spinnaker adoption is that I'm adopting microservices. I'm going for more with the microservices, so that I want to adopt technologies like Kubernetes or OpenShift to deploy my containers. Other use cases is I'm migrating to cloud and AWS or GKE or multiple clouds for that matter. And so I need a unifying tool to deploy to these platforms. My existing tools with Jenkins or offline scripts is just not going to scale because there's too many of the microservices coming online, or too many cloud providers information I need to parse in my scripts. It's not worth the hassle. So Spinnaker really provides out-of-the-box solutions for multiple cloud deployments, container deployments, not only deployment, but also rollback, et cetera. And that's why it has been widely popular. And the other big part of why Spinnaker is the ability for Spinnaker to be able to automate end-to-end from core check-in all the way to production and as I said, rollback. And this is not possible today with many of the existing technology. Maybe you've automated the CI portion with Jenkins, but not necessarily the CD portion. It's literally another completely disconnected process, offline process, and you don't have any visibility where a specific particular check-in is there or a particular code update is going on. So Spinnaker provides you the ability to automate end-to-end, and also it provides you the ability to integrate processes like approvals as part of the pipelines. And this makes it a very robust system where you can have end-to-end visibility. And like I said, even though people have traditionally looked to Spinnaker when they try to adopt containers, you can absolutely use it for update, using VM-based application updates. as well as functions, Lambda, and those kind of new emerging use cases that's coming along. So that's for what's the majority of the use cases, the majority of the customers are using it for. But there are also emerging use cases that we have seen a lot of. Number one is the infrastructure updates as part of Spinnaker. So as you're modernizing your CI/CD, you're also looking at infrastructure as code. So you want to update your AWS or Kubernetes, etc. on demand. You want to be able to maintain as code for get version checked, and also be able to update them. So popular tool used in this case is Terraform, and Spinnaker has integration with Terraform that Opsimex has made it available for OSS Spinnaker, and that allows you to update your infrastructure along with your applications. The use case is, for example, you want to bring up your test cluster, test VPC network before you deploy your test artifacts, and then you test the hard artifacts, and then once you're done with the testing, you remove your test infrastructure, like test VPC. So you can do that with the one single pipeline with the Terraform integration. The other use case is around updating big data platforms. Big data platform being used everywhere as big data. Data is becoming one of the key part of every organization, and having a way to update the big data, maybe ETL changes or schema changes. And you want to bring some sort of a GitOps process to that to allow for auditability and control of all of these things. Today, it's primarily done offline, and so it's very difficult to maintain control of that. So that's one of the big thing that that has come up is updates of the big data platforms. And Cisco and Anil will talk more about that because that's something they're doing very, very much today. In the other use cases around databases, similar thing here. You want to do version control of schema changes in databases, and you want to be able to do a GitOps process again to be able to check in dev and staging and a production schema changes. And you have tools like Denodo and Liquibase, which does that. What you've done here is essentially integrated Spinnaker with that platforms. That means that you get the full benefit of Spinnaker in terms of role-based access control, ability to do approvals and do many of the things that I talked about earlier on Spinnaker advantages. And last but not the least, use cases around Spinnaker is a very extensible and flexible platform. So if you have your existing process doesn't quite fit into the existing targets of Spinnaker, etc. For example, maybe you're not yet ready to go for immutable infrastructure, immutable model for your application. Maybe for some you're done it with containers, but not for others. You can still use your existing scripts and to update an application, for example, in a VM, and still get the benefit of an end-to-end visibility, end-to-end control, end-to-end auditability of your updates to these legacy applications. So definitely Spinnaker is a use case for that. And those are some of the use cases. Now I probably have missed a few, and feel free to ask questions in the Q&A panel, and we'll definitely try to address that, or you can email us afterwards, and we would love to hear that information back. So with that, I'm going to turn the presentation over to Anil, who's going to talk about how they're doing Spinnaker at Cisco and how they're extending the Spinnaker. Anil, take it away.
Hey, thanks, Balaji. Today I'm going to talk about how we extended Spinnaker into other workloads like Snowflake, that is a SaaS platform. But before I start, I want to talk about where we stand in terms of Spinnaker in Cisco. So we started our journey with Spinnaker back in 2016 and 17, but actually we went live in terms of Spinnaker in production back in 2018. We went live with single instance, but as we progress, we have currently 17 instances of Spinnaker running in production. When I say 17 instances of production, a Spinnaker instance, they are high HA. That is, I have 8 instances running in one data center and another passive 8 instances running in other data center. And the other instances are basically used for DR, specifically on disaster recovery and resiliency. Currently, we have around 150 applications using Spinnaker. We have more than 4,000 pipelines that are being used across thousands of software, 1,000+ softwares, to do their deployments in various environments, that is multiple environments, non-production, production, infrastructure as a code. There are different areas that they deploy. We have currently 800 active users using Spinnaker across all the instances. And the most important thing is we have exponentially grown in terms of using Spinnaker or leveraging Spinnaker to do the deployments. We have more than 30,000+ in the last year itself. So it's exponentially growing as the days passing. Currently, the platforms that we are using and the application teams that are deploying is mainly for OpenShift, that is our internal cloud. But the application teams also leverage Spinnaker to do their deployments to different other platforms like Informatica, Teradata, S3, or Snowflake that we're going to talk about today. So why did we choose Spinnaker? A reason for going with Spinnaker is for that it is a cloud native solution. It's like a cloud provider agnostic. Spinnaker treats cloud native deployment strategies as a first-class citizen, enables best practices such as immutable image, canary deployments, pipelines, automated releases, and automated rollbacks. There's a lot of features that it provides, and these are some of the key reasons why we chose Spinnaker. So let's deep dive into how we extended Spinnaker for Snowflake. Before that, before we get into the details, I want to talk about what exactly is a Snowflake. Snowflake is a SaaS product. Basically, Snowflake is an elastic on-demand data warehouse that is completely SQL-based and provides benefits of zero operational overhead and a lot of other consumption features that you can use. So currently we in Cisco, we are leveraging Snowflake basically for data warehouse and data analytics. That is, we collaborate all the data sets, combine them from an on-prem data source into cloud source like Snowflake, and then we use it for analytics. But Snowflake can be used for, can be hosted for data lake, data engineering, data exchange, data application, data science. There are a lot of things that teams can do on that. So when we started our journey in terms of Snowflake, a lot of application team had challenges in terms of bringing the data sets and the source. So that's where they had to work on custom scripts, custom code, custom APIs to take care of those deployments. There was no standard deployment process. And the most important thing was there was no consistent compliance was followed across all the services. So they needed to submit those audit reports and manage those gates and compliance. So this is how we started Snowflake. So why one of the questions that we keep getting asked is why Spinnaker for Snowflake? So we were already leveraging Snowflake for other platforms. So it made more sense for the application developers to provide a unified developer experience. Basically make sure the deployment process that the application teams are working on, it's seamless, it's painless, and they can trigger deployments on demand and at any time. And one of the key things or one of the key requirements from the application team was to make sure they manage the quality aspects of every changes or the products or the services that they are building into. And as the application teams are working on multiple platforms or multiple applications, they also wanted to have actionable pipelines where they wanted to leverage deployment strategies, right? Like blue-green deployments. They also wanted to manage how they can use Highlander, or they wanted to do canary analysis. So there were a lot of requirements in terms of not only deployment, but also wanted to take care of things after the deployment was done. But I think one of the major things was we worked on a transactional web service, which provided a self-provisioning for the application team. So what does that mean? Me as a developer, I can go and request for any kind of stack for any platforms at one single place. That was one of the biggest requirements that we had. Let me walk you through a simple CD pipeline that we are leveraging in our world. Right. So as a developer, I go request for a stack. That's where we say, oh, we have provided a console where you can go and request for a stack. That is where developers do that. And once they get the stack, they start working on the code changes. It could be OpenShift, it could be Snowflake, or it could be any of the other platforms. They make their code changes, they commit their changes into Git or any of the source repository. Then they use continuous integration and build system to build their artifactory, or they build their binary artifacts, and they push their changes into the Docker registry or artifactory registry or any of those registries that they have. The most important thing is, how do we orchestrate these deployments of these binaries? We use Spinnaker to do the orchestration. So Spinnaker basically takes care of orchestrating the deployments into multiple environments. That is the target environments. The target environments could be, as we spoke about, OpenShift. It could be Snowflake. It could be any of the other Salesforce or SaaS platforms, any of the SaaS platforms, or even for a local VM, they can do their orchestration to that. So this is a typical CD pipeline that we provide, and teams have the ability of customizing this as well. So let's talk about how a Spinnaker pipeline looks for in a Snowflake environment. So this is a sample production deployment. If you see, we have a configuration where we trigger the deployment. Pipelines are triggered using webhooks. They use all the secrets, the RBAC, and everything is being set for every pipeline. And then if you see the second stage, that is the pipelines will ensure and validate if there is a SOX validation or a compliance validation has been met. And then only it will go to the next step of getting the right set of approvals. That is, whether there could be a downtime, if the changes are being made, or there could be the change could go in a specific window or not. So those are the approvals that the pipeline will enable as a part of the deployments. And last, if you see, there is a Snowflake stage that we have developed using the custom stage that we have done. So basically, this is a simple production pipeline. As a user, I will walk through when I trigger a deployment, it ensures there's a runtime compliance, REST, inbuilt gates, approvals. Everything is being met before it goes and deploys into a Snowflake. And all teams are leveraging the self-service provisioning that we have provided to get these pipelines on demand. So how did we go about developing this custom stage for Snowflake? So we leveraged some of the guidelines that was provided by Spinnaker community to implement Snowflake in our area. And also OpsMX has helped us. To create a new stage, you need to make backend changes to Orca to implement the logic of the stage. If you see, I have put in a snippet of the Orca local.yaml, how exactly we have built that. We have ensured that there's a specific artifactory where exactly the registry needs to be there, how the manifest is being built, how the dynamic properties are being pushed into the system. That is, you could have a static data, you could have a dynamic data, you could have a runtime pull those data into the system of the custom stage Snowflake. So we spent a lot of time understanding and figuring it how the deployment would be triggered to Snowflake and how we make sure that the data is secure. So one of the things we did was integrating this stage, Snowflake stage, into Vault, HashiCorp Vault. We ensured that all the configurations or the YAMLs are in the Vault. So we leverage dynamically pulling those configs and YAMLs from the Vault as a part of runtime deployments. And a lot of help was provided from the community in terms of how to build the custom stage. And there are sample that is being hosted on spinnaker.io as well. So that was how we went through the custom stage of Snowflake. But also, I think I want to talk about how the developers got onboarded in terms of leveraging these stacks. So we have developed, as I told you, that there was a transactional website, that web experience that we have built for developer. That is nothing but a unified developer experience across the platform, which provides not only internal cloud and SaaS. So as a developer, I can go request for a pipeline, find out what are the software that are being deployed from my team, how the changes are being done. There's a big community in terms of leveraging best practices. There are guides and steps of how to go about developing, building, and triggering deployments. We also have provided console, if you were to look at each of these meta, but not only that, we also provided something called code-ctl, that is a CLI command line interface, where me as a developer, if I'm going to deploy and trigger lots and lots of deployment as my production release, I can automate that whole stuff using the command line interface as well. The most important thing for a developer is to understand how the changes are being transforming through this pipeline. And that's where our CD analytics really helps in terms of leveraging what is the metadata, what are the changes that are getting pushed? Has it met the security policy? Has it met all the testing policies? What is my scores on these changes? How big is my change? How many people are working on this change? And how does it look? What was my previous change? So all this data, meta information is provided as a part of CD analytics, and it is available at runtime as well. So this was the experience in terms, and this experience is common across all platforms. So me as a developer, if I want to go and procure a stack for Snowflake, I would get the similar kind of meta information across all the platforms. So I know, oh, my front end is, what is my meta information for my front end? What is my meta information for my back end? So all those things together help me as a developer to understand how my changes are impacting in the system. So in summary, the most important thing that has helped us is the realization that the custom job stages really enhances Spinnaker's functionality. Because we are not only able to leverage the custom job for Snowflake, but we are also able to enable the same custom jobs across multiple other platforms like Teradata, Informatica, and so on. So because of our success in terms of these platforms, we have a line of workloads that we need to enable as a part of pipeline. That's where we are working towards, and that's going to be our future state in Cisco. And this is what I wanted to cover in terms of Cisco's extending Spinnaker to Snowflake, but also it helps in terms of how teams can onboard their applications or the custom stages. Over to you, Balaji.
All right, thank you, Anil. I'm going to share this thing again. So yeah, I think it's amazing that actually you're able to extend Spinnaker to other use cases. I know that the volume of teams that you're supporting, you would eventually have to extend it, and this is great, right? Because essentially now you're able to bring more control across all these applications, various kinds of applications, and that I've seen across many different enterprises as well. So I think it's great that Cisco has achieved that, and I think thanks for sharing, because many people may not be aware of things you could do with Spinnaker beyond the standard offers that's there. There are multiple questions that we obviously answered, I guess, during the Q&A session. I think one of the couple of points I want to mention is that, hey, how do I get the Terraform? Because it's something that most requested. So we have open sourced it. It's available for open source Spinnaker. You could reach out to me or reach out to this alias on the screen here to get help with that. Or if you have any questions on various custom job stage work you can do for your own applications, again, feel free to reach out to either of us, or you can also get official support from OpsMX if you like at hello@opsmx.com. So I'm going to share our contacts one more time, just in case you didn't catch it the first time. So feel free to email me or email Anil with any specific questions around what you saw today. And we hope you enjoyed this session, and you're going to enjoy the rest of the Spinnaker Summit 2020. Thank you, Anil, for your time. Thank you.
Thanks.